Hi everyone, this is Erin Peliquin from Digital Photography for Moms. In this video, I'm going to show you how to use my Rustic Chic actions for Photoshop. So as you can see, I'm using Photoshop CC 2017 for these actions. If you have a prior version, I'm 99% sure that your actions will work in it. I just don't have the prior versions installed that I can test. So the first thing you'll need to do in order to use these actions is download them from the email that you'll get via my website. And once you click on the link in that website, the action will download into most likely your downloads folder. But remember that everyone can configure their computer differently. I am on a Mac and my downloads automatically go to this downloads folder. That usually happens with PCs as well. But again, if you've changed the configuration of your computer, you should know where to find the downloads somewhere on it. So the action does download as a zip file or a compressed file. You'll have to open it to extract the action file. So I am going to double click on this zip file to open it. Now, depending on your computer, you might need to right click and select extract or open or decompress or something like that. Look for that kind of terminology. And you can see now that the action is right there. It ends in an ATN. Now you'll want to move this file somewhere beside your downloads folder because odds are that downloads folder gets emptied out every once in a while. So I'm going to right click on it to select copy. And then I'm going to store it permanently in this Rustic Chic Actions folder. So I'll just right click there to select paste. Now you can always copy and paste by clicking on the action, going to your edit menu and selecting copy from there, or however you would normally copy and paste files. So now we've got this action in its permanent home. I'm going to go to Photoshop and install it. You'll want to display your actions panel. And if you don't see that, just go to the Windows menu and click on Actions. From that Actions panel, you'll click on this little icon with horizontal lines. I'm going to move Photoshop over just so you can see it. I'm going to click on that button again with the horizontal lines and then select Load Actions. And from there, I'm going to navigate to that same folder where I moved my Actions file. And so you can see that all it takes is a click to install it. There's the action set with all of the actions it contains. So to give you a brief orientation of how these actions are set up, the first section is the style section. So these are the fun and creative looks that you can add to your photo. The middle section is the corrective section. So these are the things that fix issues that happen on camera. And then finally, we've got this eyes section. So you've got these six actions that are devoted completely to giving you sparkly, sharp eyes in your photo. So let me move Photoshop back over here so that you can see my entire window. The last thing I want to point out is that you will not need to use this action. If you've got full Photoshop, you won't need to use this one that is specified for Elements 14 and prior. It's only because those earlier versions of Elements don't have features that full Photoshop has. So in most cases when you're editing a photo, if you need to correct issues, you're going to want to start with the corrective actions. So for instance, in this photo, I wasn't able to expose for both the background and my subject. If I had gone any brighter, I would have blown out these pixels in the background and I wouldn't have been able to recover the detail. So I knew that I would be able to brighten my subject in post-processing. So we have got this lighten a lot action. I'm just going to click on it and then click the play button. And then you can see down here I've got a brand new layer. You can turn it off and on to show you a before and after. Now the opacity of this new layer is at 62. So if I wanted to, I could increase the opacity to brighten her face further. The layer also has a layer mask, and you can see that that's this white box here next to the layer name. The layer mask allows you to constrain your edits to one part of your photo but not the rest of it. So for instance, I really only needed to lighten her face. I did not need to lighten my background. So in order to use the layer mask, I want to first make sure that I've clicked on it, that the outline is around it. I select my paintbrush. And the thing about layer masks is that anywhere you see white, the edit is shining through. Anywhere you see black, the effect is hidden. So I need to paint black on this layer mask in order to hide the effect. So I want to make sure that black is my foreground color here. If you've got other colors, you can always click on that little button to select your default black and white, and then click here to put black on top. My paintbrush is pretty small, so using the left-facing square bracket key, I'm just going to make it really big and kind of paint in the background. And you can see that I am restoring the original exposure to the background, but leaving her brighter. So here's a before and an after. You can see I missed a spot right there. And then looking at my layer mask, you'll see that the black indicates the places where I've hidden the effect. Now, if I wanted to, I could brighten this some more by using the opacity. I could run the action again to give me kind of a double dose of it. And if you are a more advanced Photoshop user, you can always double click on the layer thumbnail to open the layer properties, and you can make whatever adjustments you want to from there. Now, with these corrective actions, you could run, for instance, this one, my subject is a little cool, so I could run warm my tones. I could also run the mix and match, which is going to create all of these layers. Warm my tones is definitely too strong, so I can turn it down just a little bit. So you can see that you can just tweak all of these layers this way. Now, when you are running actions, it's often a good idea to flatten your image between actions. It's not always necessary. You don't have to. But if you start getting strange error messages, like I can't find the background layer, or this is an illegal operation, something like that, odds are you need to flatten. So for those cases when you do need to flatten, you simply right-click on a layer in your Layers panel and select Flatten Image. So a flattened image is an image that only has one layer, and that layer's name is background, just like you see. All right, so let's go to this photo and talk about some of the creative styles that you can add. For instance, let's run sunny and warm to the sunset shot. So clicking on it, I'm going to hit the play button. And you can see that it automatically changes this photo to a really strong golden hour image. So again, I can reduce the opacity of the layer. I also down here see that I've got a folder. So the folder contains a layer mask. If I wanted to hide the effect from part of the image, I could do that. But I can also open this folder to reveal the layers that went into the edit. And so here I could adjust the opacity of one or the other. I could paint on a layer mask for one but not the other. You've got a lot more options by actually opening up that layers folder. Now, if you don't like the action at all, you simply click on the folder and drag it to the trash can. And there's our original image. All right, so the great thing about this action set is that we've got this mix and match styles. This action is going to run all of your options. So I'll click on that and click on the play button. Now, depending on your computer and your version of Photoshop, this action might run slowly. If you find that it's consistently slow, you don't need to run it anymore once you get familiar with what each action does. Now, at a couple of points during these actions, you're going to get this message about the fill layer. Either one of these options is great. You can hit convert to smart object or rasterize, whatever you want. And so you can see now the action has stopped playing and your image hasn't changed at all. But you've got all of these new folders, and you can click on the eyeball on each one to turn the look off and on. And this will help you see what the action does, which one looks best on your photo, etc. You can also, at this point, combine the action. So if you like, for instance, light and airy and pump it up just to make it a little more intense, you could do that. So that's the benefit of having this mix and match action. Note that the top layer is your vignette layer, your darken edges layer. So that one, again, can be applied to any of the other styles. So here's cross process with a vignette, or a vintage Valentine is nice with a vignette too. Now, we also, I mentioned earlier, have the mix and match action for these corrective edits and for the eyes section as well. So let's go to a portrait that has eyes that we can edit. This eye everything includes all of these actions, so I'll run it. You've got to open the folder. You can see that even though I've run it, again, my photo hasn't changed at all. And once you do open it, you'll see that each layer has a black layer mask on it. So remember that white reveals and black conceals. So wherever you want to reveal the effect, you need to paint on it with a white brush. Now this action does select that white paintbrush for you. My paintbrush is too big, so I'm using the right facing square bracket key to make it smaller. And I'm typing Command or Control and the equal sign to make those eyes bigger. All right, so I am on the eye bright layer, and notice that the outline has to be around that layer mask. And I am just going to brighten her eyes by painting over them with my paintbrush. Now you can probably barely see the white that I've painted on. Eye bold is to saturate the color of the iris, and it's important here that you only paint over the iris. You don't want to saturate, for instance, bloodshot eyes or something like that. Eye white is for the whites of the eyes, just to brighten them a touch and desaturate any colors that might be there. And then finally, the eye line, lash line, iris rim action is to add contrast to the places that are really going to attract your viewer's attention. So for the most successful use of them, you want a tiny, tiny brush. You can outline the rim of the iris as well as the eye line. And I use this eye line action even on men, but I do often use a smaller brush on men. You don't want it to look like you're applying makeup. So I'll just finish painting up here around the iris and this top eye line. And I've done all of these eye edits. So the easiest thing to do at this point is to first just turn the layer, the group off and on to see what you've done, see if you've missed any spots. And then zoom out, and I do that with Command or Control and the 0 key. Turn the group off again, so before and after. At this point, this is where you're going to realize, oh, I think I went too far. Those eyes look kind of unnatural, and that's what I see here. I think they're unnaturally bright. So I am going to reduce the opacity of this entire group of actions to something like that. So there's the before, there's an after. That looks more natural to me. Okay, so that's how you use the Rustic Chic actions in full Photoshop. Thanks so much for watching this video and have a great day.